This might be a banger.
You're thrown overboard into the ice-cold water. Your body's tightly attached to the ship with a rope. You're supposed to drown.
No, wait,
But
hold on. Yo, wait, we're already getting, hold on. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Young Juju. Yo, please talk to me about, like, this pirate era. Were they damn near like the Roman Empire, where them boys would do some crazy shit? What's up? You want to come react to? Or are you just looking at my cereal? Because you're not getting any of that. Fuck.
not right away. First, you're dragged under the ship's keel, covered in sharp seashells and barnacles, cutting your skin. Later, the water gets inside your lungs, making breathing increasingly difficult. This is just one of the numerous cruel tortures that pirates and sailors underwent in the golden age of piracy. In this video, you'll find out about the most horrific methods of pirate torture of that time, as well as about the rules and laws, the violation of which called for these punishments. However, I'm warning you, as always, viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, shit.
Imagine it's mid-18th century, and you're earning a living by piracy. You've had a tough day, so you and your pirate colleagues have decided to relax a little. You're singing 15 Men on a Dead Man's Chest. Rum is flowing, but after a few extra glasses, the fists are out, and you're pummeling a fellow crewman. The fight's brought to an end by the captain shouting, "Bring in the cat o' nine tails!" This might sound funny, but the moment the cat is in the captain's hands, nobody's gonna be laughing. That's because the cat o' nine tails is a meter-long whip made of a hemp fabric with 9 knotted twines. Every knot on the twine ends was made to tear the skin like the claws of an angry cat. You're told to stretch out your arms, and then you're tied to a mast or laid face down.
I'm not gonna lie. My bad, chat. I know I'm munching like crazy. I don't think that last tool looked as effective. Like, if a nigga was to try and swing at me with that, I just dodge it. That shit don't even got like a crazy reach. You feel me? So I rate that other one like a 2 out of 10. It wasn't nothing crazy.
Upon a can.
He said cat scratches too. Like, it kind of compared to cat scratches. So like, I'd beat the fuck out of a fucking cat. So like, you feel me? It ain't doing nothing to me.
The bosun's mate is standing behind you, slowly unwrapping.
Oh wait, that's how big it is.
Knotted twines, as if delaying the moment.
Never mind.
Waiting for the crowd to come and watch the spectacle. When the captain swings the whip, it swooshes through the air. Its knotted ends plow into the skin, leaving deep grooves. The 30th swing is so unbearable that you go unconscious. However, you come right back around after the strike that follows. Drinking could be punished by 10 lashes, but fighting would get you 50. More severe punishments were usually designated after an official military tribunal. The Royal Navy papers mention punishments of 200 lashes for desertion, 300 lashes for a mutiny, and up to 500 lashes for stealing. However,
what
this
the
punishment
hell?
could befall not only a pirate, but also, for example, a prisoner of war. There are even witness records. A soldier who survived a similar punishment in 1832 said it felt like a knife piercing through his body. The pain in his lung.
Bro, what? To what degree you getting whipped and it feels like a damn knife is poking at you? That's some crazy shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Was more excruciating.
This looks
than in
gay
his
as
back.
fuck. Like,
He
it
felt
looks like
his
he's just
internal
smacking him in
organs
his
were
ass.
about to burst. The soldier bit his tongue to keep himself from screaming. It almost snapped it in half. He even almost choked to death. The soldier felt like his entire life was nothing but endless pain. They say this punishment wasn't aimed at killing the culprit. However, I found the information according to which it could result in death. For instance, because of the massive blood loss, or a heart attack caused by the unbearable pain. Hundreds of lacerations can also become open gates for bacteria, and there were no antibiotics at the time. In addition, even those who survived carried scars on their backs until the day they died. The Royal Navy had a lighter version of the Cat O' Nine Tails for punishing cabin boys. It had only 5 tails made of smooth cords. The grown-up sailors were hit on their backs, while the boys were punished on their buttocks. However, both this cat and the Cat O' Nine Tails weren't just a punishment. They were a show of intimidation for everyone. The next time you feel like taking a shot of rum or getting into a fight, remember, the sea doesn't forgive weakness. And if you take a risk by breaking some of the more serious pirate laws, your chances of survival after being tortured by the captain are even lower. It was really stupid of you to ignore what I just said and steal a silver compass from the captain's cabin. The theft was found out very quickly. The colleague you've recently beaten up while drunk didn't miss out on his chance to snitch you out to the captain. Your sentence is harsh. Keel hauling. You're stripped down to your shirt and pants. Your arms and legs are tightly bound by ropes, making all attempts at breaking free impossible. They also tied a heavy chain, or a cannonball, to your feet, making sure you would sink under the water. Then, 2 long ropes are tied to your body, one from one side of the ship, and the other...
Wait, hold on. Back to the guy snitching. I know I'm kind of delayed, but... if you were to snitch, how would they be able to prove it's you? Just throw the compass somewhere else. And then say, nah, it was him. Now you start like some crazy shit. Like now the captain's like, who gets it? And now the nigga's gonna get taken with you just for snitching. And now that nigga gonna die too, bitch.
Threaded under the keel and strung tightly.
Snitch ass nigga.
You're thrown overboard, and the rope immediately pulls you below the surface. You slide under the ship, skinning your back, arms, and legs against the hull, covered with hundreds of seashells, each razor sharp. Every moment causes you unbearable pain. Your body's covered in wounds. The salty water seeps into them, stinging so badly that it feels like you're being burned from the inside. You're screaming from pain, but the seawater's filling your lungs. You have to fight for every gulp of air, if you're lucky enough to dive out of the water, even for a second. Some sources describe the culprit being given a chance to have some air by holding an oil-soaked sponge in their mouth. The oil created a water-repellent barrier that stopped water from getting in. Under the water, the victim could squeeze it with their teeth or tongue, producing a small dose of air for a short inhale. However, this method had nothing in common with mercy. On the contrary, it prolonged the suffering by making a person continue experiencing a slow asphyxiation for longer. But that's not the last trial. You can feel something enormous approaching you rapidly from behind. Oh no. The blood from your wounds has attracted sharks. Luckily for you, the captain has decided you've had enough torture. You're lifted back to the deck and everyone's surprised you're still breathing. However, even if you manage to survive, you, just like most sailors after keel hauling, will most likely suffer from infections. Yet you could have died on the spot. If the rope you were tied to had been strung too tightly, your extremities, or even your head, might have gotten torn off. Keel hauling was an official punishment in the Dutch Navy, and, less often, in the English Navy. We know that a Dutch
you English fucks were doing this in the fucking UK. You fucking dimwits, innit? Where's your head, bruv? What is... Man... This is literal torture. Yo, back then, people were evil, bro. People are evil to this day still, but they were more evil back in the day. Like, this was a normal thing. I don't think there's been a death penalty out, like, in the past 2 years. And if there is, I gotta do my research.
Named Jan van Riebeek sentenced a sailor named Jan...
As a matter of fact, if there's a death penalty, leave a comment below that there is, and I'll react to that next.
Blanc to keel hauling in 1652. It was the punishment for his desertion. Jan didn't manage to survive this torture. Another case happened in 1673, when Admiral Cornelius Avertsen ordered to punish his subordinates for murder. There's even a painting that depicts the pirates gathering to watch an exemplary punishment. Another similar penalty was ducking at the yardarm. A person was tied up with a rope under their arms, hoisted up the yardarm, a horizontal beam on a ship's mast, and then suddenly dropped into the water. This procedure could be repeated 2, 3, or even more times. depending on the severity of the crime. In the cruelest of cases, the person was dragged under the keel of the ship, and when they were in the water, a cannon would fire right over their head. However, there's an even more horrific punishment that, despite seeming painless, is actually astonishingly cruel since it leads to a slow death. You're tired of putting up with unacceptable treatment from the captain, who doesn't divvy up the loot he's obtained thanks to you, the subordinates, fairly, so you incite a mutiny. Everyone was on your side, except for one rat. So now, you're standing in front of the captain, waiting for your punishment. He coldly pronounces the verdict: marooning. Then you're kicked out on a tiny piece of land in the ocean. You're left there with a barrel of fresh water, some pilot bread, and a gun with a single bullet in it. And no, it wasn't for self-protection, as you may have mistakenly thought. It was kindly provided for you to put an end to your suffering when the only thing you have left is despair. The heat sucks all liquid out of your body. The water's running out much faster than you thought it would, and the hunger's becoming unbearable. Your skin is burning in the sun and getting covered with blisters that turn into bleeding wounds with time. Little by little, you're going insane. You start seeing visions and talking to the rocks. Your loneliness is killing you, and you've already thought of finally putting that gun to use many times. You can pull the trigger, but don't rush. I have a story that can become a ray of hope. In 1720, a
What
pirate named
the hell?
Winston England, one of the most famous captains of the Indian Ocean, was dropped off on Mauritius. The reason for that was his kindness. After a fierce battle near the Comoros Islands, he spared the life of the Cassandra's captain, James McCrae, and gave him the Fancy, a partly damaged ship. This decision infuriated the crew, who thought that the only thing their captured opponents deserved was death. The crew voted for marooning and dropped the overly soft captain off on an island with a gun, some water, and minimal supplies. There was something they'd missed, however. The island wasn't actually deserted. The locals helped James with food and some tools. He built a boat, and 10 days later, the man reached Madagascar, where he found shelter.
What
Alexander
the
Selkirk,
hell?
the prototype for Robinson Crusoe, ended up stranded on an island due to an argument with the captain of the Cinque-Port, Thomas Stradley. Selkirk insisted that the ship needed repairs and said he'd rather stay on a deserted island than risk his life on such a dingy vessel. So the captain gladly provided that opportunity, even though Selkirk changed his mind and begged to be taken back. The captain refused. Later, it became clear that Selkirk was right. The Cinque-Port sank in the Pacific Ocean, taking most of the crew with it. Meanwhile, Alexander managed to survive on the island for 4 years. He found fresh water, hunted wild goats, and built a shelter. In 1709, he was rescued by a British expedition on a ship named the Duke. Robert Jeffrey, a sailor marooned by Captain Lake of a ship called the Recruit in 1807, was also saved by a coincidence. An American schooner, the Adams, found the man and freed him from his trap. The captain paid for the decision to maroon his subordinate with his position. When British admirals found out about the incident, Captain Lake was brought before the court since his actions were called a blatant violation of maritime law and humanity. It was considered a crime to maroon a sailor on a deserted island without proper reasons. Ultimately, Captain Lake was terminated from his position and fired from serving with the Royal Navy. So don't rush to pull the trigger. While you're marooned, unforeseen circumstances may well arise and help you stay alive. However, that's not the case with the most brutal pirate punishment of all time.
Oh,
What's that
shit.
red thing on your hands? Have you done it? You killed your captain. You've remembered everything. How he beat you up with a whip, then tied you to the keel, and then left you stranded on a deserted island. You've miraculously survived all of this, and now you've come to take your revenge. But no, he's breathing. The other crew members grab you and prepare you for the most horrific execution. But what do they have in store for you this time? If we look at how pirates are depicted in pop culture, the most feared method of torture is almost always walking the plank with your eyes, arms, and sometimes even legs tied. But according to the sources I've read, this execution method wasn't actually that common, and the victims weren't always thrown into the sea. This was more of a psychological terror, as you didn't know if they'd show mercy after scaring you, or if you'd really be thrown to feed sharks. This torture wasn't reserved for murderers. It was used even when there was simply not enough food aboard the ship. In that case, slaves, who were considered extra mouths, were made to walk the plank. This punishment became widely known thanks to a general history of the pirates by Daniel
What?
Defoe.
Wait, hold on. I thought walking the plank was a normal. They're saying that's some light shit. Like, the shit that I thought was crazy normal, that's some light shit. Now they're about to show me some normal crazy shit. Like, real crazy shit. Like,
19th century
that they
writers,
thought was
such
normal.
as Robert Louis Stevenson and Howard Pyle turned this image into a literal stereotype about the pirates and their cruelest punishment. However, you're facing a real pirate execution right now, accompanied by the screams of the crowd gathered here to watch your torment like a show.
What the
You're
hell?
led to a wooden frame towering over the sea. You're chained to an iron cage and left there. In the first days, you're suffering from the sun piercing every centimeter of your skin, and, during the nights, from the bone-chilling cold. It's becoming increasingly harder to breathe, but that's just the beginning. Just like during marooning, you're dying from hunger. And all this is happening in front of the crowd, watching you with contempt
What
every
the
day,
fuck?
or even happy to see you in agony. In some cases, the bodies were left there until their clothes rotted away, or even until the corpses decomposed completely, after which the bones would be scattered around. Captain Kidd, one of the most famous pirates, was hanged on the bank of the Thames, where the tide submerged him 3 times. One of those times, the rope was torn, and the man fell to the ground. He could have saved himself, but had no energy left to escape. Captain Kidd was recaptured immediately and put back in the cage, where his body, and later his remains, kept hanging over the Thames for 23 more years. They say some parts of the skeletons of pirates John Bread in the East Sussex and William Fly in Boston still remain at the place of their execution. Now you're the one being led to the gallows. Suddenly you break free and jump into the sea. I hope you're a fast swimmer, even with your hands tied. Brutal pirate torture used to be the norm back in the day, but can such cruelty ever be justified? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I got plenty of
Hey, man. If you like this crazy shit, these brutal punishments, brutal reactions, Echoes be dropping bangers, but I'm not gonna lie. But if you fuck with this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It's been your boy Young Juju. And I'm out of here.